the Dhamma has this quality, the quality of peace, of love, of peace. So whatever the talk, whatever title you may give, it must eventually lead to a sense of calm, to a sense of peace. And that is what Dhamma is about. Anything that supports, that upholds peace and happiness and harmony, that's Dhamma. Tonight there has been a request for me to speak about the charter of religious inquiry, the unique charter of religious inquiry, and how to apply it in our daily lives as well. This charter of religious, actually it's a unique charter of religious inquiry. It's contained in what is called the Kalama Sutta. Kalama Sutta. How many of you have heard this discourse? Hands up. Okay, good. You remember that? This is a discourse the Buddha gave to a group of young Kalamas. Kalamas is the name of a tribe of people in India at that time. They have listened to the teachings of the Buddha. They had their faith, their confidence was established after listening, and then a number of those young men had requested to become followers of the Buddha, and they were ordained as monks. Then, after that, they went back to their own village, and after returning to that village, at some time they will receive the visits of other religious masters, other religious teachers. So some other masters, some other teachers or philosophers, they will come. When they visit these people, the Kalamas, they talk to them, they address them. And when one teacher comes, one teacher says, they will teach, they will say that they are the follower of a certain master and teacher, and what the teacher says is the truth. All other teachings are not true. So one teacher says something and then goes away. And then after a few weeks, few months, comes another teacher, another master. And he also say, he teach something and he say, this is the truth. The other things, you can ignore them. Like that, one by one, quite a few teachers have come and gone. So these young monks, the Kalamas, having heard what the Buddha taught, and then again they have heard from these different masters, these different teachers, the teachings, they were a bit confused. Because the other masters, all the other teachers that came, they said, their master, their teachings is right, and all others are wrong. So, who is right? Because one says right and the other wrong, but they teach all differently. So what happened was one day, when the Buddha was around that area, these young monks got together and approached the Buddha. The Kalamas, the people of Kalamas, they approached the Buddha. And they posed this question, the question that, what are we to believe? One master says this, another master says this says something else. And they all say theirs is the truth and others are false. So we are a bit confused. Please tell us what to believe, what not to believe. Then the Buddha taught this. Buddha preached to them. For the purpose of seeking the truth, Buddha advised them that they should not go merely upon report, tradition, hearsay or rumors. Now simply because you hear some report, right? You know, if I pass the message, I call somebody to come up here, right, quietly, and I say a few sentences, right? Then I ask him or her, now can you please pass this message to your neighbor? and then your neighbor passed this message to another one. Quietly you pass until you reach the behind. Do you think the message that I passed to the first person will be the same as the last one? Did you play this game? So you know what it is by listening to report. But still, you still accept. When you hear a report, you accept it, isn't it? So be careful. Simply because you receive an SMS, you think that's true. You know our recent incident, and we also heard about these things. Chief Reverend passed away a few times. I don't know whether you have heard about these things. Yeah? Of course, for some people it was very serious. But this is the nature of things. You know, people who we have a high-tech now, SMS, everybody know very quickly. But suddenly the person who sent that SMS, he sent it, and then a little while more he realized, no, this is not right. But then the SMS has gone to somebody, and somebody has sent to somebody else, cannot retract it anymore. Yeah. And this is how things happen. And then some more day, when you send the SMS, they can check what time your SMS sent. So they say, oh, you know when? Pass away, that time. And that time is not the time, it's the time that they receive the SMS. And then some more when pass to other people, they also have different times. Wonderful. This is what we experienced recently. This is report, just hearing these things. So, the next time you receive anything, pause in your mind, think, and then if there's a possibility to check in more responsible these things, always have a second check. Yeah? Don't disregard it totally. For all you know, it may be true. Yeah? So you have to check, I think, if you can. Then, by tradition, simply because it has been passed from one generation to another generation, simply because something has been passed from your great-grandfather to your grandfather to your father and to you, you know the truth may not be there. The truth may not be there. Tell you something. There is what you call belief that you must get a son because the son is important to maintain the family name, isn't it? Yes or no? Yeah. So all people who marry, they want to get a son. If no son, marry another one. If you cannot marry, then churi, go somewhere and get another one. Yeah? Actually, I also had this problem, not getting sons. But I had this because I am the only son. So when I asked my parents' permission to become a monk, before I asked them, I was thinking like this. What if they ask me, if you want to become a monk, then what happened to our family? Finish. Yeah. And it is, this is the tradition that has been passed on. Your grandfather has given a series of what you call name. First must be the second name must be this. All your cousins have this name. And then must be this. You don't have lineage. But I have an answer. Because if any of my parents, if they ask me this question, I will ask again, are you sure if I'm married that I'm going to get a son? And if I do get a son, are you sure that my son is going to get another son? And like that it goes on. If you cannot be sure, then I better stop it now. And I will start a new lineage. I didn't tell them. I did not need to tell them because they are quite understanding. The Buddha was also the only son. And when after Siddhartha Gautama, after he practiced and he became enlightened, he came back to what you call the city of Kapilavastu, and he saw his father. Actually, he took his begging bowl and asked, went round to get for food. The father saw him doing this. The father got very upset. Father was the king, the ruler of that kingdom. Father went to him and says, "Son, what are you doing? You are insulting our lineage." He looked at the father and he said, "Which lineage?" Of course the father said, "We are a lineage of the Sakyans, the ruling class." But the Buddha says, "I no longer belong to that lineage. I belong to the lineage of the Buddha. And all Buddhas in the past go around like this." Then the father, "Please, come. Don't go any further. Come, I'll give you whatever food you want." Right? And then invited. And that is how Buddha does things. Yeah. So, this tradition, it is worldly truth, but not a universal truth. Understand? So in case you marry and you get only daughters, sometimes, I see people, first child, daughter, second child, daughter. Then from that they will pray very hard to get son. And third one, daughter. If they pray very hard, the chances are the third one, if it's a daughter, maybe a little bit tomboyish. Yeah. That's just a consolation for them. Sometimes they get so upset they dress that girl like a boy also. Yeah. This is very truth. This is tradition. Simply because it has been passed on from one generation to another, that may not be the truth. That leads to more suffering, especially when we regards to find the truth, the true nature of life, and the way out to suffering. Usually when we talk about truths, we talk about the knowledge of how to overcome suffering. So sometimes there are lots of traditions, there are lots of rituals that were passed on from one generation to another. In India, also from China also. In India, there is a tradition, they fire worship, they worship fire. Yeah? And this is passed on from one generation to another. And they say, if you don't worship the fire, don't worship fire, you cannot go to heaven. And in order to worship fire, there must be a family. That means you must marry. So if women are not married, then they have no passport to heaven. Yes, that is why in India, women must marry. That is why even nowadays here, if they don't marry, there's some sort of stigma. But now things have changed. Yeah, things have changed. Because there are now other passports they can utilize to go to heaven. Yeah, they don't need that kind of passport. Truly, it is actually very silly. But that is what you call the worldly sort of tradition that has passed on. Creates more and more suffering. And that is tradition. Then we come to hearsay and rumors. Hearsay? You cannot trace who say. That's why you call hearsay. Yeah? At least a report you can say. You can say, Reverend Mahinda told me like that, I heard this thing. Then you tell, and then you say, yeah, and my friend told me that Reverend Mahinda said like that. And then you say, my friend heard from another friend that Reverend Mahinda said like this. And by the time it reached here, the message can be totally something else. But there is at least a report. But then, there are sometimes you hear something, you do not know who said it. But you just pass on this message. I heard somewhere like that. And then, sometimes the hearsay is of a doubtful nature. That's what rumor is about. Sometimes hearsay not so doubtful. Those hearsay that are more doubtful, they do not know what is these things. Become rumors. Rumors spread like wildfire. Yeah? And people accept those rumors. No? This is something. Careful. Whenever there is a rumor, whenever you hear something and you do not know who said it, just careful. But having said that, Also don't, don't go to the extreme and say, oh, this one rumor, just forget about these things. Because if somebody say there's fire, what you call around the neighborhood, and the wind is blowing very hard, it's approaching you, then you hear it says, Reverend Mahinda said this is rumor and hearsay, we don't run anything. So, here you must use your discretion, right? You must be alert. But it's true, you must make sure that, so when you hear something, then be what you call vigilant and try to find out, probably. Truly, if there is no fire, or maybe, just one place they have a little bit open fire, so you don't have to be excited anything. But after investigation, you find there's some truth to these things, right? Then you may even need, after you have investigated these things, then you can accept or reject according to your investigation. Then, Buddha also said, simply because it is written. Because even during the time of the Buddha, there were some scriptures. Scriptures means, even if it is not written one, it has been passed down from one teacher to another, from teacher to pupil, and they have rehearsed it as their scriptures, right? Because during the time of the Buddha, there was the Vedas, the Rig Vedas, they all were there. Buddha said, simply because it is in your scriptures. In other words, nowadays, simply because in the scripture book tells you, the truth may not be there. That's why when people come knocking at your door and carrying books and says, this book says this, you better keep another book. And this book, go and ask Venerable to print Kalama Sutta and says, this book says this. That will settle the problem. Yeah? You accept that, I accept this. This is something. Why it is called a unique charter? We call it, I call it, the unique charter of religious inquiry. Because there is no other religion. There is no other religious teachings that will give this kind of freedom in the search for truth. Then, simply because you heard something and it appears to be reasonable, it's logical. You say, after you listen to some Dhamma talk from some monks or some layman, you think, that's logical, that's very reasonable, yeah. I think that's the truth, yeah. And you accept that as truth. Buddha says, don't simply go upon reason. Yeah, simply because there is reason. Sometimes truth, you may not be able to reason it out. Understand? I just tell you another little truth, like it's not the highest truth. That the truth is, there can be some devas in this room. Believe it or not? Is it appeal to your reason? No. You cannot see it, and some more, you also cannot feel it. So, but if somebody come with a digital camera and click, 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 they may see some, what they say, orbs. They say, they may see some lights. Because they say, I have seen in other places, so it's reasonable. So yeah, simply by reason, the truth may not be there. Understand? Then, not only truth, then there is also inference. Inference? You infer. When somebody says something, I say certain things. But you think I say that, another thing. Because you have certain idea in your mind that you have read. Right? So when you hear what I say, you think I say, what you have read or what you have heard others. You infer like that. Inference. The truth may not be there. Not only that, sometimes you may hear something which appears to be true, but not real truth. That's why in the court of law, when you take the oath, you must say what? I swear to say the truth, and not enough. What? The truth, not yet. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. You see how strong liars are? So, truth is not enough. It must be whole truth. And nothing but the truth. You can interpret another way. Anyway, this is what. Simply because something seems the truth, it may not be the real truth. Then also regarding speculation. Sometimes you speculate. Your own speculation. But sometimes people give Dhamma talk also. In between, they have their own speculation. Yeah, I think the Buddha say like that. Be very careful. In my early years of monkhood, I always like to repeat. I always like just to make people listen and become a little bit authoritative. I say, Buddha says like this. Buddha say this, Buddha say that. Then after that somebody asked me, really Buddha said that? Then I go back, I cannot sleep. Because I think, did Buddha really say that? Or simply I say that, the Buddha say that. But the habit of using Buddha says, because when I say Buddha says, everybody listen. So, I became careful. I was a little bit careful about using that. But occasionally it also slipped. Right? So, simply because if I do slip and says Buddha says this, then you better check up. If you don't believe everything what I say. Okay? But this Kalama Sutta is true. You can check. After this, you ask Reverend Indra, and then after that you go and ask other monks. This is true, right? Then, simply because you hear from somebody who appears to be very able, seeming ability, yeah? Somebody who appears to be very able, who can practice. You see it like that, according to your perception. And you accept what the person has to say. The truth may not be there. What he says may not be true. And you know what the Buddha went on to say? Buddha told the Kalamas, simply because he is your teacher, what he says may not be all that true. Wow. Then what happened to the Kalama? More confused. Then what to believe? Who to believe? In other words, what the Buddha tried to say, and say simply because I as a Buddha say it, you must not simply accept it blindly as truth. You see? Is there any other master, any other religious teacher that has preached this kind of teaching? I don't think so. All other masters and teachers want you to listen to them and that what they say, whatever they say is the truth. Yes or no? Then the Kalamas, who are in a state of shock and confused, ask the Buddha again, "Oh Venerable Sir, please help us now." We are even more confused. How are we to accept? How are we to know what is true, what is not true? How to practice? Then the Buddha told them a very simple thing. Buddha says, "O Kalamas, is greed good?" They say, "No, sir." Buddha says, "Avoid it." Yeah? Avoid being greedy. Is hatred good? Anger and hatred, is it good? They say, "No, sir." Buddha says, avoid it. Is delusion good? In a state of delusion, something that is impermanent, you think it's permanent. Things that are suffering, you think that's happiness and enjoyment. Yeah? things there is nothing that you can cling on to things. You cling on to yourself, where the self is empty. And so, Buddha said, is delusion good? Ignorance good? No good. Avoid it. And then Buddha went on to ask them, is generosity good? You mean you like others to be generous to you? I know you may not like to be generous, but at least you like generosity of others, no? Yeah? Is generosity good? Good. Then the Buddha says, practice that. Is loving kindness good? Good. Practice that. Is wisdom good? Good. Buddha says, practice that. Then they think, oh, so easy. They didn't say that, but may appear to be easy, but not so easy. You try to let go of greed, craving tendency, you try to let go and see how easy it is. It's not all that easy. But this is the criteria of judgment. In this particular discourse, in the Kalama Sutta, Buddha has laid out the criteria of judgment of what is right and what is wrong. Do you understand? Very often, there are lots of intellectuals, especially when you use the word morality, they will ask you, what is morality? What is right for some person may not be right for another. Isn't it? Have you heard of these things? How many of you have heard? So few people hear this thing. No wonder you're all very moral people. In the West, particularly in the university, those people who go universities, these things, and they question, they say, morality is in the eyes of the beholder. If you think it is right, it's right. Yeah. What is right to one moment may not be right in another moment. So many people are confused about what is right and what is wrong. And in this discourse, the Buddha has laid out this criteria. Because in another discourse, the Buddha has mentioned how are we to accept what is right and wrong. One is by the supremacy of self. Supremacy of self, that means to say, if I think is right, it is right. If I think is wrong, it's wrong. Yes or no? Have you heard some friends say that? Yeah. Be careful about that. Yeah? That is what you call supremacy of self. Then on the other hand, you get some other people who believe that if other people think it's right, if a lot of people think it's right, it must be right. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. You accept by that. Simply because other people think it's right. Like today, I ask you certain things, and then I ask you, is this right or not to do something? And then you say, yes. Right? Then I go out, I go and tell. In Penang, I have a group of people say like this, and they all accept this is right. You accept it or not? Simply because a group of people, and sometimes majority also, agree. You accept it as right? You know, there's a saying that says, fools think alike. There can be many, and not there can be, there are many foolish people in this world who think alike. So, simply because there is a teaching, Confucius said, that if 10 people blame you, accuse you, one person accuse you, don't take too seriously. But still think about it. Still examine yourself. But if 10 people are pointing their hands towards you, according to Confucianist teachings, that you have to reconsider your actions. Do you understand? Now, but I don't think it says to accept, but reconsider. So, Buddha says, simply because this is what you call public opinion. That means the supremacy of others. What people say, people think is right, you say right. That is why the truth is not measured in terms of numbers. Simply because you hear there are followers of certain religion by the millions, we think, oh, they must be true. The truth may not be there. They may not be right. That is why Buddhists should not use numbers, statistics to say like this. Then, how do you know what are the criteria of right and wrong? Not by the supremacy of self, right? Simply because you think you are right, somebody thinks he's right or wrong, you should not judge by that. Simply because others think it is right or wrong, you also don't judge by that. So how should you judge something that is right or wrong? You should investigate. And how do you investigate? You investigate that particular action. Is that action conditioned by greed? Is that action conditioned by anger, by hatred? Is that action conditioned by delusion? If a particular action has been conditioned, is that particular speech or action or thought that has been conditioned by greed, by hatred or by delusion, that action is wrong. That action is immoral. That action is unwholesome. You can use all these various words. In other words, that action is not skillful. So this is how we measure. We have a standard. There is a criteria of measurement in terms of greed, hatred and delusion. In terms of generosity, loving kindness and wisdom. These are good and right action. That is how we judge it. And there is another criteria, Buddha says, that what is good for yourself and good for others, what is beneficial for yourself, beneficial for others, and praised by the wise, that is, then you accept it. So, this is how the Buddha presented the charter of religious inquiry, how to seek truth, how to identify, how to seek the truth. Now, of course, when this was preached to the Kalamas, it was with regards to the truth, the way how to overcome suffering. So we have to apply, these things can be applied in our day-to-day lives. And as I mentioned to you, the bulk of the people in this world, they all just listen by hearsay, by rumors. They will accept things. And that is why there is so much of suffering, a lot of defamation, killing of characters. All has come about because of what? Because of rumors and hearsay. And once something is rumored, very difficult to pull back. Once you have defamed somebody's character, even though the person may be innocent, you can't pull back those things. But how are you to understand? Why is it sometimes for no rhyme or reason, suddenly people talk bad about somebody? That person may not be doing anything wrong, the person may be honest, but somebody go and spread bad things about that person. Why? There must be a cause, there must be a reason, isn't it? Sometimes the cause, you cannot find it, you cannot establish it here and now. That means the cause must lie somewhere else. If not in this lifetime, maybe in some past life. Because of certain karma that arises. Usually when certain karma or certain quality, certain conditions arises, when some people are jealous, when some people get upset over certain things, right? That can condition, that cause, that condition can trigger off certain karma to ripen. And sometimes a person may be very innocent, but at a certain stage, a certain time, these things, when certain karma ripen, for no reason, he can be accused, he can be blamed of various things. Have you got this experience? People blaming you when you are innocent, when you feel innocent. How many of you got that kind of experience? So few. I have experienced these things. When I did certain things with all the best of intention, right? Some people blame, some people accuse. They write letters, and I show Chief Reverend this letter. I was very upset. You know what Chief Reverend asked me to do? Chief Reverend pointed out the waste paper basket and said, put there. Yeah, that's where it deserves to go. Buddha preached in other places about how to face, how to maintain an equanimous state of mind, a balanced state of mind. You know the 8 worldly conditions? As long as we live in this world, we have to face these worldly conditions. Where there is profit, there is loss. Where there is praise, there is blame. Where there is fame, there is ill fame. Where there is happiness, there is sorrow. Who wants to be happy? No, nobody wants to be happy anymore. Because truly, where there is happiness, there is sorrow. So what should you be looking for? Huh? Good. Peace. Peace of mind. Where happiness and sorrow are transcended. When you go beyond happiness and sorrow, then you have gone beyond that worldly condition. You are safe. You are secure. That's the state of mind that we all want to go through. There's nothing wrong to be happy. But just remember, you're happy one moment, maybe 2. But next moment, you may not be so happy. How to go beyond happiness and sorrow? How to transcend happiness and sorrow? Mindfulness. Be mindful. When you are happy, anything that gives you happiness, right? The news that you are getting a son, right, will give you great joy. Yeah? You are happy. Then the son is born. Then when the son cries, little bit crying, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather all run. Just little cry only. Yeah? Then grandmother wants to say, grandfather wants to say, and then you say, yeah, okay, give it to them. Yeah? And then you start to see all the problems. These are worldly issues. But you have to understand. Simply because, you think, I don't mean you, and then you think in that case, these are happiness, then I don't want son now. You also have problem. Yeah? You have to learn. You have to understand that this is what life is about. Buddha said, Manusa patilabo. It is difficult to be born as a human being. Having been born as a human being is also difficult to live as a human being. Do you know? To live as a human, you got to do so many things. Sometimes you also have to cheat and lie. But sometimes you say, no, it's only a white lie. Yeah. But still you have to do it. Sometimes you have to do something that you don't like. If you have become successful in your life, you become CEO or CIO. Yeah? And if your staff, if your subordinates don't do the work, sometimes you have to report. You give bad report. And based on the report, sometimes they will be sacked. Sometimes you got to fire your staff. But you feel it very unsatisfactory also. You don't like to do these things. But sometimes you cannot avoid doing these things. And that is why the Buddha, in many of his past lives, he has been born into the family of very wealthy merchants. He grew up, he did business. Obviously he must be very successful. And then after that, he reached a certain stage, he had all the wealth. What did he do with the wealth? He donated, he gave charity to all the religious people, all the holy people. Then after that he walked to Penang Hill. No, I mean forest. Like Penang Hill. So how nice, those of you who made the money, go to all the temples, donate and go up and find some cave and sit down there very peaceful. Yeah. No more handphones, no more these things to bother. You go on clinging and fighting, yeah, until when? Huh? There are many people who do these things. After becoming director, one company not enough. They need 2, 3, 4, 5. Then they pass their age already. Still, they work and work and work until drop dead. Is it worthwhile? No. That is why one must be prudent, one must be wise in these things, in one's life. And what does the Dhamma has to say? The Mangala Sutta. Refer the Mangala Sutta. Life's highest blessings. The Mangala Sutta speaks about the different stages of one's life. When you are preparing to encounter the world as a student, you must have certain values. Avoiding bad company, avoiding the fools. Asevana cha balanang panditanang cha sevana, puja cha puja niyanang etang mangala muttamang. Avoid the fools, associate with the wise. Honor and respect those worthy of honor. This is the highest blessings. You know, when we talk, avoid the company of fools. Who are the fools? When we use the word fool in Buddhism, it is quite different from the meaning of fool in the dictionary. Yeah. A foolish person is one who cannot think, who cannot write, who cannot learn. He's a foolish person, huh? But in Buddhist terminology, when we say he's a fool, Buddha says it balo. Balo is fool, right? This is one of the harsh word the Buddha, harshest word the Buddha used. What does he mean? He means that person is a cunning, wicked person, right? Always scheming. That's a foolish person. Actually, by our standards, you know, that person may have MA, PhD, did it, but very cunning, very wicked. We still call him fool. Yeah. But in Western standards, how can you call such a, highly qualified person a fool? Isn't it? That is why you must understand the terminology at times. We use the word, but we have no other word to use. Fool. That's why many people think foolish people means they cannot learn, they cannot pass examination, and that's foolish people. My grandmother could not read, could not write. She lived until 92, good health. I think until about 90 she can take a needle and put a thread through it once. You try when you go back and see whether you can or not. When people have problem and neighbors, husband and wife quarrel, and the wife will come and see my grandmother and talk a problem. My grandmother will listen. After that she will advise her what to do. And then tomorrow the husband come. Talk. These things. Grandmother listen and then talk. And then after a few days, both husband and wife come and bring basket of fruits and to offer. This was not once, not twice, again and again. Yeah. And this one is, she don't go to school. She don't know how to write. The only writing I saw her doing is this. She has some bits and pieces of paper from the what you call calendar one, right? She write 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, can dash. You know why? She gamble a little bit. You know there's Huawei, the numbers, the 2-digit number, right? So she will do. Every day also she have something, this thing. So today, get 1, win. This one, lose. 0. Gee. Later on I saw that's binary mathematics. Who invented binary mathematics? No. It is actually, it is not a great, what you call a learned person. It is a very primitive, a very natural state of mind. It's, you don't have to go to school to do that. I only studied binary mathematics at 6th form level. Of course, now you might have studied earlier, and you can see you still now, computer programmers use what? 0 and 1. Yeah? See how? Grandmother's wisdom? This is what you call. So don't look down simply because they cannot read, they cannot write. Wisdom can be there. Yeah? So remember, when we talk about foolish people, they are the cunning people, they are the scheming people, they are very jealous, they are very envious people, they are stingy people. Now you don't go and point hand, that's fool. I just tell it as long as you know enough. Don't go and point and tell people, that one fool, that one also fool. But every time you point one finger to somebody, 3 fingers are pointing at you. So don't point fingers. That's why sometimes now people don't point like this anymore. People point like that. Yeah. Now, I will conclude with this one more thing. When we talk about foolish people, let us see what the Buddha says, who is a foolish people. Yeah? This one I have told you, those of you who have come to my talks here or anywhere, you would have heard this. But this is very important for you to know, for you to think about, because we are living at a time when we must be prepared to let go. Anything, and in fact everything also. Right? This is what the Buddha said in the Dhammapada. Buddha said, Putta mati dhanang mati iti balo vihanyati attahi attano nati kuto putta kuto dhanam. How many of you have heard this? 1. And now I translate and see whether you remember. Putta mati dhanang mati. Putta means child or son. People think like this. I have son, I have child. Or this is my son, this is my child. By extension, also you say daughter, husband, wife. This is my husband, this is my wife, my mother, my father. It means like that. And some people say, this is my enemy. Actually, enemy they don't like, but still they say it's mine. Wait, you see what the Buddha has to say, right? Buddha, this is why he says. Buddha says, Putta mati dhanang mati. People claim, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Dhanang mati. Dhanang means wealth. This is my wealth. This is my motor car, this is my car, this is my table, my house, everything mine. Yeah? Dhanang mati. People think like that. Do you think like that? You think like that, Anna? Okay, you don't want to say. Because, you wait. The second sentence is, Iti balo vihanyati. Buddha says, it is a fool who thinks in this manner only to come to grief. Very serious now. because not many wise people around. It is true. Then the Buddha explained, Attahi attano nati kuto putta kuto danang. Attahi attano nati. This self I cannot call my own. What more? My child, my wealth. Yourself. You can call your own? Your body is really yours? Tonight, you go back, you comb your hair, fall down. You go to sleep, right? Tomorrow morning, you get up. Do you know how many cells died? How many cells in your body die? Now people don't like to listen what you call study biology anymore, because they want to study only economics and IT. But every day, not million, not billion, but trillions of cells die in our body. Cells die. So we are not the same person every moment. You are a different person from the time you came here. What is it that makes you think that you are the same person? Tell me. What is it that has not changed? Now, I'm sure physically there's some changes that have taken place, right? Some of you now are feeling a little bit hungry, a little bit thirsty, right? Than you were when you came in. Your mind, your state of mind is also different. Your feeling also different. So what makes you think that you are the same person? You know what? Your name. Because I have not. Yeah, I am Mahinda. I have not changed. That is why. You have a name. You cling on to that name. You think you are the same person you were. You are a different person. Of course, for conventional sense, you can't be changing your names every day. But sometimes some people change their name also once in a while. Yeah? This is what we are often deluded by that. Buddha says, this body, this being I cannot call my own. What more, my child, my wealth? You understand? But very difficult inside. You mean I cannot call my child? I cannot call my husband anymore? You can. Go back, you still can call. My darling, my honey, my this thing. And then, yeah? But just remember, he is not really yours. Your child is not really yours. You can't keep him the way that you want. You can't make your child to be what you want him to be, or you want her to be. You will be disappointed. Isn't it? Husband and wife fighting, after a few years. Not after a few years, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years also they married, they still quarrel. Why? Because husband wants the wife to be just as he wishes her to be. The wife wants the husband to be what she thinks he should be. Isn't it? Because of what? Because they love one another. Of course. Because of love, they like the person to be what they like. And that's where all the problem comes. It is not wrong to love one another. But your love must, what you call, as days goes by, as years goes on, as you become older, your love must improve the quality of that love. Yeah. How do you improve? With more wisdom, with more understanding. At first your love starts, very superficial one. Then after that, sometimes very selfish also. I love you, but don't love anyone else. I'm not advocating free love. But This is the kind of affection, this is the kind of love you have towards one another. But as you grow older, make sure you practice more and more metta, loving kindness. And the metta, the love, metta, Buddha defines that kind of love. The love that a mother has to her only child. The mother will protect him or protect her at the risk of her own life. And that kind of love, that kind of care, the loving tender care that you have towards that child, the mothers have, that kind of love is given to all, including your enemies. How about that one? That is metta, loving kindness. So, and if you really practice that kind of love, this is why I like to advise, I like to urge you all, recommend you all, especially those people who are on the stage of retirement stage or close to retirement, and these things. Learn how to sit together. Especially if you are married, these things, sit together and practice metta, loving kindness. Improve, raise the quality, the standard of love until it becomes truly a universal, a boundless love. Otherwise, jealousies and envy can still come up, even though after 50, 60 years of marriage. Yeah. And so, the Dhamma is something. If you really have faith and confidence in the Dhamma and you practice that, your life will have greater peace, greater happiness. That's what Dhamma is about. That's all I have for tonight. And we will conclude in the usual manner to share merits and make your wish, make your aspiration. Just get into the state of calm and quietness by bringing your attention within. Bring your attention within. Observe calm and quietness within. And spread out loving kindness to all around you. Have the good wish in your hearts that all beings be well, be happy. In your wholesome state of mind, share the merits of this occasion with all the devas, all the guardian deities, all those who have been guiding, protecting you, even though you may not acknowledge them. For now, you will just acknowledge that whatever beings, whoever that has been guiding and protecting you, you share these merits with them all, including the guardian deities of this temple premises. May they all share these merits and rejoice and continue to guide, to protect and look after your well-being. We will also dedicate the merits of this occasion for the spiritual well-being and happiness of all our departed relatives, teachers and friends, whoever that comes in your mind, wherever they are. Have the good wish for them, that wherever they are born, may they have opportunity to receive Dhamma, that they will grow in the Dhamma and be free from all sufferings one day. With all your good wishes, all your good thoughts and the merits that you have acquired, make your wish, make your aspirations, that all these merits will support, will become a cause for you to have opportunities and be able to further develop and purify your minds. Purify your minds from the tendencies of greed and various forms of clingings and attachments, from the tendencies of anger, of hatred and grudges, and the tendencies of delusion, cultivating the qualities of generosity, loving kindness and wisdom, so that you will have the purity of mind that will give you the strength to confront and overcome whatever difficulties, whatever obstacle that may arise in your lives. That you will grow in wisdom and compassion and be able to make good use of your lives, not only for your own happiness, but also for the welfare, for the happiness of the many. May all the merits pave the way for you to progress in your lives, for you to succeed in what you do, in your studies, in your work, that you be able to fulfill your worldly duties and responsibilities, and at the earliest opportunity, may you all walk the noble path and be liberated from the cycle of birth and death one day. May you also have the wisdom, the compassion to help others, whoever that comes by your way. Please make your wish, make your aspirations accordingly. Whatever immediate difficulties or problems that you have, that you are confronted with, be it issues of health or relationships or whatever difficulty, connect yourselves to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, all the great noble disciples of the Buddha, from the time the Buddha until now, and those yet to come, and all enlightened masters and teachers, that you may receive their blessings, their guidance, and their protection. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhan sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhan sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhan sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. Akasatta ca bummata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu loka sasanang. Akasatta ca bummata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu desanang. Akasatta ca bummata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mang parangti. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Abhivadana silisa nichang vada pachayino Chataro dhamma vadanti ayu vano sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti saga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti minate samichato. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and all the merits that you have acquired, may your wish, may your aspirations come true. May you all have long, healthy, happy lives and grow in the Dhamma. That may you sow the seeds of enlightenment in your hearts and be free from all sufferings one day. Sadhu. I just like to express my joy, and I rejoice with your interest in the Dhamma, and also with the good works of the Venerable Indaratana here, to be able to maintain the kind of religious atmosphere. Good night. Yeah.